It's the géant of the grids, so to say, or the terrain of the grids. So we had this EGI.eu host site selection. Amsterdam was selected. And that means that Amsterdam put in a bid saying, here's a building that you can use, here's some startup money that you can use, and here is some personnel that would help you to do this. And we would all say, of course, that's great, Amsterdam is rich, so they can do it. But to tell you the truth, we had 8 bids. We had 8 countries saying, here's a building, here's some initial money, here's some initial stuff to do that. So the 8 is, in my opinion, a good indication that they are willing to spend some money, they're really interested in doing this. Amsterdam won after a tough selection, so that was reviewed and everything, so we had a process. And just see, that was only about 2 months and a little bit when we kind of came from this is the idea of what we want to do to the selection where the host site is. Right now they already have the building, people are working on the statutes there, how to do this thing. Then the policy board kind of also transferred into the council. Why? Because the council is seen as the governing body of this new organization. It's not the think tank that develops the organization or endorses the documents. It's the one that steers the operation, that kind of gives the directions of what's going on. There was the first council meeting, and as you see, for the first council meeting, we had a memorandum of understanding. And again, this is interesting because you only signed the memorandum of understanding. You agreed also to put in some money into this pot. It's not the Commission that is involved here in sponsoring this. Each of the states said, well, we've already agreed on the vision, we like the blueprint proposal, and the next thing was, let's put in some money to make it happen. The money was distributed on the GDP, so each country had a different kind of ratio to put in, and for example, Germany had to put in about 70,000 euros a year. That's not much, but if you put all the countries together, you have the money to run kind of the coordination body for this whole infrastructure. And we didn't need the Commission, we didn't need anybody else. Well, actually, truth is, when our states, when the politics saw that we had this memorandum of understanding, like in Germany, the ministry said, okay, I'll give you the money for 2 years for this, because I want Germany to be part of that. Okay, so it worked out better than, I admit, I expected. Yeah? So in the end, you see the numbers there. On 8th of July, that was the first deadline, we had 23 NGIs putting money into this operation, and we had CERN also putting money in there. A couple of months later, we had 28 NGIs, and the numbers are still increasing. And to tell you the truth, there's also this meeting in Barcelona where we came together, and there we reviewed the situation, and even during the meeting, another country came, here is the letter, and kind of, I subscribe and give you the money. So that goes on. You can take a look at the URL. You see the council members, and as was correctly said in the beginning, I'm the representative for Germany also. Here is the map again showing the same thing. You see a good coverage, and like if you see Portugal, for instance, that should be green now because they signed up in the last moment. So again, you see it's coming together. We have this critical mass by far. So what happens in the future? Well, next thing is you need for such an operation, you need a council chair. So we had another election, and that was done just as you do an election. We had 3 candidates. One was chosen, and the candidate chosen was Per Öster, who works for the Finnish Center for Supercomputing. So he is chair now, driving this ahead. And the other person, some of you have seen him over there, Stephen Newhouse, is the appointed interims director. He does, again, the technical side. So again, you have the distinction between the council on the strategic side and what Stephen Newhouse does on the technical side. He was also kind of appointed for that thing. Then we had another, here it says still near future, 1 October 2009 is when the NGIs had to pay their contribution. I checked with the kind of the money keeper, and he told me, yes, there was money coming in. And from the numbers, well, that correspond to what we said in the MOU. So it's looking fine. The organization has even some money. Even, and that's the interesting thing, even before the organization exists. Because the organization can only exist with statutes, and the statutes haven't been agreed on. So kind of we have even the funding before we are actually having an operation. And that's our next step. We're putting in this EGI proposal. We said we're coming that far. We have the organizational structure, but then we need again some additional funding. And that's coming from the European Commission, hopefully, because that's just a competition like everything else, with the difference that this call that we are submitting the proposal to has been dedicated from the Commission to the NGIs. So only NGIs can apply for and is only allowed to submit one proposal, which seems like it's making things simpler, but of course, reality is it's the same proposal as anything else. You have to do the same hard work. There will be other proposals. Not everything is included in EGI, and for some areas we have some more competition. Like for the middleware, for instance. We will get at least 2 or 3 middleware proposals. Some combining 3 middleware stacks, others going for single middleware stacks. They will be competing on which is the future middleware stack, in a sense. That will be interesting to see. There's again this competing factor of the best should win, should provide the middleware for EGI. The other term here, the SSCs, that's the special support centers. That's where we provide support to specific user communities, like, for instance, hydrometeorology or high-energy physics. And again, they have to compete. So support the best of them, the best proposal in a sense. Of course, I would hope that all of them would be sponsored because that would drive us ahead, but there's a limitation in money as usual. So that's the EGI, the European Grid Initiative. And as I told you, it's NGIs and this glue factor, the glue, the EGI.eu. That's the organization that was described and the model and everything that was written in the documents. We need to define this mechanism and functionalities. We have a draft proposal of how this could be done. This needs to be refined, needs to be evaluated over the future. But of course, it's a good first step. It's a document agreed by everybody. And, well, as I said, the important thing is now the next step. Next step means funding from different funding sources. So the EGI proposals will, well, the plan today is that 33% of the funding comes from the European Commission, 66%, 67% of the funding comes from the member states, from the individual NGIs. That's tough for the NGIs, yeah? But to tell you the truth, none of them has stepped out from the proposal so far. So they see the benefit in this proposal. They are willing to put in not only the membership fee from the MOU, but also 66% of every person working on this endeavor. Why? Because the general idea, the overall vision is something that all of them want to achieve. Because 2 years ago, they agreed on this overall vision. And that's why it was important to have the green mark and the green countries, in a sense. And, well, that's my last thing. That's always my statement, which I put forward to my NGIs in Europe. I brought it to you here because there is the social aspect in here.